Welcome back to Cooking with Bill. Thought I'd go through a nice meal that you can prepare pretty quickly for your family. We're going to combine a nice steelhead trout, and we're going to also do a quick white asparagus salad. Now, I wanted to bring up something that some of you may have known, some of you may not. I used to be a much bigger man than I am right now. I tipped the scales at about 316 to 320 pounds. And about a year ago, last March, I decided I was needing to do something about that. And so I started to work on dropping weight, working out, doing all the things they tell you to do. But one of the things I concentrated on is dropping the amount of carbs in my diet, but not necessarily to going to a keto type of diet. And I've done those before. We've all done many kind of diets before. But this, I found something that was doable. Trying to stay with fresh foods, trying to stay with things that are not fried, looking at things that aren't breaded. Even though I've been doing some videos on how to do homemade breads and homemade pastas, you do those in moderation. So although my wife and I would eat bread if I made it every day, we make it once a month or so. And it's a treat for us as opposed to being a regular staple of what we eat. And I'll show you a picture of me in just a second. I think you'll be able to see it right here or somewhere. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you eat well and you try to follow some process of watching the calories that you're putting in, you can at least try to make yourself a little more healthy than you are today. So we're going to talk about a steelhead trout. Now, if you haven't seen one before, a steelhead trout looks very similar to salmon. They're about in the same type of family. You can see it here, and I'll give you a close-up of it as well. The difference is it's got a little bit different texture to it, and the flavor, in my opinion, can be a lot better, especially than the farm-raised salmons. Now, I pick mine up at Costco. They have them pretty often, and they're usually priced the same or cheaper than the salmon for that. This is about a 2¼ pound fillet of steelhead trout. Now you're going to treat it very similar to the way you would do salmon. So you're going to feel along the edge here, and you're going to see if you have any pin bones. So right there's a pin bone. You don't want to feed people pin bones. So if you happen to find one as you're taking your hand along, you can pull them out. If they're a little bit stubborn because you feel them and they're not coming out naturally, you can take a pair of needle nose pliers if you have them, and that'll actually help you pull those bones out. Now they've cleaned this pretty well. I'm not feeling much in the way of pin bones, so that's really nicely done. This has a skin on one side. We're not going to even touch the skin, but we're going to take the top of this and we're going to season it. Now I've tried different kinds of seasoning on fish. I like one of two ways. There is a McCormick's great Cedar Plank salmon that I like, and we're going to use that on this one today. But I've also used a ginger with garlic and a little salt and pepper, and those are all powders, and it makes an excellent rub as well. Now what we're going to do is, we just took this out of the refrigerator. I'm going to lightly dust this with this Cedar Plank salmon, and then we're going to let it sit for probably about a ½ hour or so it soaks into the meat a little bit and gets ready to be smoked. Now we're going to put this on a smoker on a piece of butcher's paper for about an hour, maybe 90 minutes. You want the salmon to be 140 degrees when it comes off. The other thing that you're doing when you're smoking this is you're going to be doing this at a low temperature. So just like we did with a brisket, about 225 degrees. So that's the smoke. We're going to use apple wood as the pellets. Normally I use a signature blend, and you could use that signature blend as well, but I'm going to switch over to apple for this. All we're going to do is take and lightly cover this. There we go. So that's all we're going to do for the steelhead trout until we put it in the smoker. We'll take a minute, and then I'll start doing our salad for tonight. Now we're going to make a nice side dish for that steelhead trout that we talked about a minute ago. And what we're going to use is something you may not see very often, and it's this. This is considered white asparagus. So I'm sure you've had green asparagus before. It's the exact same thing. The only major difference is they cover this up so it doesn't get any sunlight, doesn't get the chlorophyll, so it doesn't become green. Now, the difference is in taste. Now, the taste of a white asparagus is not quite as, pardon the expression, green as your green asparagus. So it has kind of a nuttier type of, not quite citrusy taste, but it has a different taste than regular asparagus. Now, if you've watched some of my previous videos, I've actually showed you how to shave asparagus before you cook it, and that actually reduces the amount of that green flavor, and it makes it also have a better taste in general when you put it over a grill, or if you boil it in water or saute it. For this, we're going to do raw. So we're going to do a raw asparagus. If you've ever had a raw broccoli salad, or if you've had a Brussels sprout salad, same concept, except we're going to do it with this. So the first thing we need is to get a medium to small red onion. The red onion is something you have to be careful about because red onion can overpower a dish quite well. So we're going to just very quickly julienne this. And all julienne is a fancy word for thin slicing. So that's all we're doing, is we're thin slicing this. As you can see, very thin slices. So, medium onion, thinly sliced, put in here. Next thing it's going to want to have is some orange. Now, I've seen recipes that ask for just orange juice, a couple tablespoons of orange juice. I am actually sectioned a navel orange so we have juice and some of the pulp. So just one medium navel orange. We're going to take about a half a cup of walnuts, and these are unsalted walnuts that have been roasted and then just chopped up. That's all it is. Can't get much simpler than this. We're going to take about 3 cups of cannelloni or white beans, whichever you have. If you're really trying to watch your carbs, you may want to skip adding the beans. But every so often I like having beans in something, and so we're going to put them in here, and hopefully it'll be a nice treat for us. Just like I said with the breads and everything else, it's okay to eat them on occasion. You just don't want to eat them all the time. Okay? So the nuts and the beans give us also some protein, along with the flavor that we're getting from the other things. Now, the other things that we're going to put in here, of course, are the asparagus. Now, there's 2 different ways you can do the asparagus. You can take a shaver, okay, so there's a peeler, and you can just peel. And as you peel this, it'll get down to a point, and that's what you put in, is the peeled. Okay, they call it shaving it. The other thing that you could do is you can take and you can cut it on its bias. So it just depends on how you want to do it. But again, cutting it on its bias, I like it that way better because you get a little bit more crunch out of it. And so that's why I'm going to do the rest of this. You'll notice I'm cutting this at an angle. Gets more surface on it than just cutting it straight down. Okay, now that we have most of the things in here, we're going to add a little bit of rice wine vinegar. Maybe a tablespoon or so. And again, just to give it a little tartness. Okay, let's put this all together. The steelhead trout was on the smoker for 90 minutes, came out just about 140, 145. As you can see, absolutely beautiful color. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this thing together. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to cut yourself a piece just along there. We're going to take this. We'll plate it up right there. Get a little bit of your salad. Once we put the steelhead trout next to your side salad, makes a wonderful dinner. Get a nice wine to put with this, nice iced tea, something refreshing, and you have a nice summer evening meal. Okay, so we've cooked this up. Let's take a little bite just to see what it's like. Remember, this just came off the smoker. That steelhead trout is fantastic at 140 degrees, right where it should be. I hope you've enjoyed being here with Cooking with Bill, and we'll see you back here in the kitchen.